What's going on YouTube? Dan from DNR Sports here. Today we're going to be looking at the Denver Broncos roster. This is going to be both for fantasy and both for real life as usual. So we start off with quarterback position. Last year, let's get into it. Where is he at? Denver. Last year, Drew Lock played in 14 of the games, or about 13 really, because this one was only 17% snap share. And straight out, he was terrible. He was absolutely terrible. He couldn't throw for 3,000 yards. Only 16 TDs with 15 interceptions with a QBR of less than 50. Not good at all. This is with quite a bit of pass attempts too, 443. A good sample size to show that he's just flat out bad. The bright spots in this team obviously aren't at quarterback. They're at basically every other position. So, excuse me. So Teddy Bridgewater, I've never been a fan really of Teddy Bridgewater. I've never thought he had a significant upside or great deep ball ability. But last year he showed that he could actually manage to support three top 25 fantasy seasons from Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, and DJ Moore. Now, the problem with all of them was their TDs. As you can see, he only threw 15 TDs. Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and DJ Moore all, I believe, finished with less than 4 or 5 TDs. That's obviously terrible, and that's not going to sustain wide receiver one seasons. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson both broke 1,000 yards, which is good to see. But it happened in kind of a weird fashion where they were pretty unreliable week to week. With this season, I think Bridgewater is the better fit for the team. I think Drew Lock has shown that there's just no upside for him. He had a great supporting cast last year and just threw it all away constantly. I think with Cortland Sutton coming back, we take a look at his 2019 season, where he had 16 games played, 124 targets for 72 receptions, 1,112 yards, 6 TDs. This all looks good. He had the sophomore jump from playing all 16 games. He went from 700 to 1,100 yards. He went up in TDs, he went up in targets, receptions, everything. Then he tore his ACL. Reports have been good in training camp, saying that he should be playing. He'll be ready for week 1. That's all good and dandy. Typically, we want to wait until the sophomore season to really target a player, like sophomore season after their ACL. So like the second year after removed from an ACL injury. But I mean, Cortland Sutton is just like, he's not one of those, he's not Jerry Jeudy who relies on that quick cut route running ability. He's to go up and get it and make just disgusting catches, where I feel like your ACL matters a lot more for a guy like Jeudy, who looks like he's about to tear his ACL on every play. Jeudy last year had a pretty disappointing fantasy season, but you can kind of see it's just not his fault. He had less than 900 yards, only 3 TDs, 52 receptions. On paper, this is bad, right? But you look, he had 113 targets. So he had less than a 50% catch rate. That's obviously Drew Lock's fault. Like, Jerry Jeudy, we know, has all the talent in the world. You know, he's a great route runner, great hands, great after the catch ability. It's just Drew Lock is just that bad. Teddy Bridgewater, it's not even going to be close. He will definitely sustain a better catch rate. I think when I did the math on the Carolina episode a while ago, I believe Robbie Anderson was like a 72% catch rate, and DJ Moore was like a high 60, like 68%. So he definitely allows his receivers to catch more of the passes. So let's see, Bridgewater played with Jeudy last year. I think the stats would be more like 1,020 yards, maybe like 4 or 5 TDs, probably like 70-ish receptions. And then we're moving on to KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick, who are both fighting for the third string position. KJ Hamler didn't have a good rookie season. He's more of a gadget player, and he's going to be used like on specific play designs. He's not like the actual alpha third receiver. I actually think Tim Patrick had a really good last year for him. Like 51 receptions, 742 yards, 6 TDs, and that was on 79 targets, which was like way less than what Jeudy had. So he was like, look at this. This is probably, let's do the math. 51. Let's find this catch rate. 51 divided by 79. So he had a 65% about catch rate, which is like pretty decent, especially for like a big guy like downfield. Go up and get a guy. He's not like a Michael Thomas who's gonna have like a 70 to 80% catch rate because like everything he catches was a slant from Drew Brees. Um, Obviously that'll be different this year, Jameis. But anyways, Tim Patrick actually had a good last year. The problem is Cortland Sutton is just better than him in basically every way. So unless Corton goes down or has lingering ACL issues, I don't see Tim Patrick playing too much. I think it'll be Judy working a lot over the middle, Hamler doing a bunch of gadget plays and working some over the middle, some outside. He's just very fast and versatile. And the Cortland Sutton just being, typical outside guy, go up and get it type of receiver. Now we look at the running back situation. And I have so much Melvin Gordon in my best ball teams just because last season, even with the 28th worst run blocking line, he posted the ninth most attempts, which is nice to see, the 10th most yards, just under 1,000, and then 9 total touchdowns. Well, 9 rushing touchdowns. That's not bad at all. When he was contested with Lindsey, and I said that so weird, Lindsey, and just had like a really down year because like a running back you'd like to play from ahead, right? Obviously, the Broncos are just never ahead, and we know that. And hopefully, if Teddy's able to take the reins here, they may have some more neutral or even ahead game scripts because their defense. Their defense is just ridiculous, as we already know. Von Miller, Bradley Chubb leading the way on the outsides, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons on the back end. Like, oh yes, Kyle Fuller they just picked up with Ronald Darby. Very, very solid defense. They're going to be keeping them in the games. Now, when they're in the games, it's between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams to fight for touches. And I do believe Javonte eventually could pose a threat to Melvin, but Melvin has basically been contested his entire career by some other running back, whether it's Eckler or Lindsey or whoever. He's always contested, and every year he has a good amount of attempts. Um, since his freshman year, almost 200, 250, 290, 175, 162, 215. That's promising. 215 in Denver, competing with Freeman and Lindsey. Like, that's nice to see. And he's great in the TD department. Like, this guy in the red zone is one of the better running backs that just doesn't get talked about. He's never had a season less than 8 besides his rookie year for touchdowns. And he's actually a surprising, underrated receiving threat. Look at these totals: 419 yards, 476, 490. Almost 300, and then last year was a little down just because Denver doesn't exactly throw it to the running backs as well as the San Diego Chargers. Sorry, Los Angeles Chargers. I kept saying SD. But we see like targets 83, 66, 54, 44. Like he can keep up with the targets. And through the air, he got some TDs as well. So he's a very versatile all-around back, and I'm not sure Javonte will get much playing time until like the very, very end of the season when they're pretty much out of the playoffs, if they do get out of the playoffs. I really see this as Melvin's backfield to lose. Javonte, I'm sure they'll feel like they could take their time, like to pretty much sit him behind Melvin, give him some touches, but let him learn, let him get acclimated to the NFL. Now the O-line, we look at PFF, they have him as their 25th best offensive line from last year, and going into this year 21st. So left tackle Garrett Bowles had a breakout season in 2020, grading out as a 90.6 overall, the third best mark among tackles. Bowles had consistently graded in the low to mid 70s in his first 3 years in the league, but cut down on the penalties thanks in part to the league cutting down on holding calls. So Jawan James opted out last year, and then he tore his ACL or his Achilles in workouts, so they dropped him, which opened the door for the Broncos to sign Bobby Massey, who's a solid starter, who's been graded between 63 and 73 in all 9 years of his career. And then we got Dalton Risner, will start at left tackle. He's graded 64 to 61 in each of the past 2 years. Those scream average, but Risner is prime for a classic third-year breakout. Obviously, we know offensive lines, more chemistry, and the more you're in the league, it's one of the hardest positions to learn, but the longer you're in the league, you tend to break out a little more. They have right guard Graham Glasgow, who played a little bit of center and right guard last year, and he graded between 68.5 and 74.1 in each of those past 4 seasons, which is like very, very solid. So center is basically the big question. 2020, Lloyd Cushenberry pretty much sucked. He had a 40.5 grade. That was terrible. His ranking literally last among centers. His 29 pressures allowed, tied for 5th, and he ranked last as a run blocker. So he's garbage. But their third round pick, Quinn Miners, I'm not going to say like I know that name. Miners has a chance to compete for the job. Maybe he has a little bit of run blocking presence. What is my tongue doing today? So basically, they're like solid across the board with like a little question mark at center. This is why I think they'll play a little bit more of a slow, like rely on their defense type of style game where Teddy's going to be like more efficient, keep drives alive instead of Drew Lock just blowing them out in one like drive. You know what I mean? Um, I think Melvin Gordon's going to get a lot of touches this year. I think he's going to easily break the 200 mark again for attempts, and I could see him getting like 50 or more receptions because we saw like with CMC and with Mike Davis when they were playing with Teddy Bridgewater, there was literally no fall off for the receptions. Like he likes to throw it to the running backs, and Melvin Gordon is a great pass catching running back. Even Javonte Williams has some pass catching ability, so I think this will be a trickier team where Curtis Samuel is basically their KJ Hamler, like that little side to side there. Cortland Sutton is more of that DJ Moore like downfield threat. Obviously, they're nothing alike build wise, but that'll be the downfield threat. And then Jerry Jeudy is kind of the Robbie Anderson, playing more in the slot. Now, Noah Fant is the thing that the Panthers didn't have for Teddy. Noah Fant's going to be a beast across the middle and can honestly line up outside. He's that athletic. Let's look at Noah Fant's player profiler. Noah Fant is like basically George Kittle, just light. So Noah Fant 4.5 40. Speed score 97th percentile, burst score 88 or 98th percentile, agility score 96th percentile, catch radius 98th percentile. He's 6'4", 250, arm length of 33.5. Remember, he was the 20th overall pick in the 2019 draft. He's 23.6, still very young. He's had some injury problems, but like when he's in, you see he can get upwards of like 37, 38 routes per game, which is like beautiful to see. If he could just remain healthy for the full year, he's like a top 5 tight end, to be honest, in the right system with like Teddy Bridgewater. But yeah, from there we're basically dealing with a decent running offense with some great pass catching weapons, with a stud defense to keep them in the games, which allows Teddy to be the game manager. I really don't think Drew Lock can keep this job. I know they're going to let him start because like they're desperately trying for him to be good in the NFL, and they know Teddy's not going to be great. But it's just not going to happen. Drew's going to blow too many games at the start, and Teddy's going to game manage their way to about an even record. And I think they'll either slightly get in or slightly miss the playoffs. I don't think this is without a good quarterback, you can't make it that far, right? We know this. We know you need a disgusting quarterback. They could honestly be like the Chicago Bears from I think it was 2-3 years ago. Remember when Mitch blew it in the playoffs for them? They were basically like the most disgusting defense ever, but like their offense was just so bad. That could be the Broncos, to be honest. That's why obviously Aaron Rodgers would have been a great fit here. Even though I'm a Packers fan, I have to admit that. But I'm glad he's still in Green Bay. He's a better fit at Green Bay. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, drop a comment, drop a sub if you're new around here. Turn post notifications on so you don't miss anything, and I'll come back with another video tomorrow. See you.
Can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right.